All right, Zoom tips and tricks. Now, these first few Zoom tips and tricks might seem a bit basic for some of you, and if that's the case, feel free to skip to further on in the video. But for the rest of you, let's get started at number one, your internet connection. It is so important to have a stable internet connection for your Zoom calls. We've all experienced something like this.
Ben?
Skipping. You're skipping.
Oh,
Hello?
1 second. All right, I'm on my Wi-Fi here.
Not great. So, the best way to ensure a stable internet connection is to use one of these, an Ethernet cable. A wired internet connection is always going to be more reliable than a wireless internet connection. Now, I know some of you might have laptops or you're using your phones that don't have Ethernet ports. And if that's the case, you can still get in touch with your internet service provider, see if there's any upgrades available on your line. You could also move the router closer to you if you can, or move your position, your place that you do your calls closer to your router if that's not possible. And of course, you can also check your internet speed. You can literally type into Google, check my internet speed. One of the first hits that comes up will let you do that, and you're going to get a pretty good idea pretty quickly if your internet is going to be a problem. But remember, whatever you do, a stable internet connection is key. Tip number 2, update Zoom. If possible, you always want to be running the most up-to-date version of Zoom at your disposal. This is to get access to all the latest features and also to have the program running as smoothly as possible. And so if you do need to update, at Goldberg Cone, you should reach out to the IT service desk for help. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the settings of Zoom by clicking on our profile photo in the top right hand corner, scrolling down to settings and clicking there. I'm not going to go through absolutely everything in here. There's just too much to cover. We just want to give you an idea of what is possible. The first thing I want to talk about is down here in the video tab. Now, I will mention that we're going to cover hardware topics like using an external camera and an external microphone a little later on. So we will get to that. But first, let's look at this button down here. It says touch up my appearance. Now, some of you may already know about this button. For some of you, it might be new. Again, it's not for everyone, but it's something that is possible. So if you toggle that on, you can see that there's a little sliding scale on the right-hand side. You can make it more pronounced or make it more subtle. And what it does is just soften the skin a little bit, soften the edges. Toggling it all the way on is probably a little much, but you can choose if you want to have it on at all and how subtle you want to keep it, but it is something to bear in mind, touching up my appearance. Okay, the next tip is just right below that, adjusting for low light. Now again, we're going to go over lighting and external lighting options a little later, but this is a handy little feature. You can toggle it on there and you could already see it enhances the light in my image. Now it is on auto right now, but you can set it to manual. And then again, it's also like the touch up my appearance, it also is on a sliding scale. Again, toggling it all the way on in a very dark room is not going to look great, but it's all a matter of degree, and it can really just help you out in a pinch if your lighting situation isn't ideal, but you want to make sure that your face is able to be seen. This is a good idea. Okay, tip number 5 is down here in the audio tab. And what I want to talk about here is this element that says suppress background noise. Now this is a handy feature in Zoom that can really help you out when, as it says there, you might have a dog barking in the background or a computer fan or a pen tapping in the background. It can really help you quieten down those unwanted noises. Have a little play around with it, see which level suits you best. Low, medium, high, perhaps even auto will do you just fine. There are third-party software packages out there on the market that may do this even a little bit better than Zoom. If you're interested in going down that route, then please contact the IT service desk for more information. The studio effects in Zoom. So this is in the background and filters tab. We're going to have a separate section on background and filters as well a little later, so I won't talk about that too much right now. But if you do see in the bottom right hand corner, there's a little button that says Studio Effects. When you click on that, this little sidebar pops up. Now again, this is definitely not for everyone. And if you do this wrong, it can look very, very bad. But it does give you the option to enhance your eyebrows, enhance the mustache or the beard, and also your lip color. I'm toggling through it here. You can see there are different levels of subtlety. But again, we just want to show you what's possible for someone out there, perhaps using one of these options in a really subtle way. Perhaps that'll help you out for some reason. And that's the Studio Effects in the Background and Filters tab. So next we're going to move on to one of my favorite features in Zoom, and we're going to scroll down here to the Keyboard Shortcuts tab. Now, as you see, as I can scroll down in this menu, there are lots and lots of keyboard shortcuts that you may or may not be aware of in Zoom. Have a play around with those. You can set your own shortcuts. You can delete the ones that they have and make up your own ones, put in your custom shortcuts. What I will say is that I am doing this demonstration on a Mac, and the keyboard shortcuts on a PC will be different to this. So bear that in mind. And one of the ones I just want to highlight that I use almost all of the time is this one here that says press and hold space key to temporarily unmute. On a Windows PC, that shortcut will be Alt and A at the same time. So that's the Alt button and the A button at the same time. And now what that does is if you are on mute during a meeting, and it only works if you're on mute, while you're muted, if you press that space bar and hold it down, it will unmute you for the length of time that you're holding down the space bar. And when you let go of the space bar, you'll mute yourself again. This is a great feature when you're in the middle of a meeting. You don't have to talk much. You just have to offer a couple of sentences on a particular topic. You don't want to toggle the mute button on and off. This is a really handy way to save a little bit of time, save a little bit of effort, and just makes the whole process a little smoother. So the next tip is not something that is within Zoom. It's another one of those third-party pieces of software that can come in handy. I'm specifically talking about transcription and live closed captioning services. It is possible to integrate those features into Zoom via a third-party app, as I just mentioned. And if that is something that sounds useful to you, then please contact the IT service desk, who will be able to further assist you. All right, so let's change gears a little. We'll look at some of the tips and tricks within a meeting. So the first thing I want to talk about is a pretty simple one. It's just changing your name. How do you change your name during a Zoom meeting? When you're in the meeting, as you can see on the bottom, there are several options. You click on participants, and on the right-hand side here is where all the participants will be listed. You hover over your name, as you can see there. You click on more, and then rename is just right there. You click there, you change your name, and that's it. So the next thing I'm going to talk about in this meeting setup is the viewpoint, the gallery view or the speaker view. Now, I'm going to guess that many of you are already wise to this, but I'll go over it for anyone who isn't. You can change the way that Zoom displays your meeting. You can choose whether to focus on speaker view, which displays the speaker in a large box right in the middle of your frame with other people's headshots across the top or the side. Or you can choose gallery view, and the way you toggle between these two views is in the top right hand corner of your meeting. It says view there. When you click on that, you should have the option to toggle between speaker or gallery view. Now, there are of course pros and cons to both depending on your situation. You just have to choose whatever's best for you. So next I'm going to talk about spotlighting. So the way Zoom normally operates is that during a meeting, the person who is speaking at a certain time gets the floor. Their camera is the one that is prioritized, and perhaps that is exactly what you want to happen. However, perhaps you have one speaker who's talking for an extended period of time. Perhaps other people are jumping in to add comment, but you want to keep that one main speaker on screen at all times. That is what spotlighting does. The way you do spotlight someone is very similar to renaming. Under the Participants tab, you hover over their name, you click on More, and Spotlight should be right there. And I will add, you can spotlight more than one person at a time. Sharing your screen. Now again, I'm sure many of you are very knowledgeable on this feature within Zoom, having to often use it, I'm sure. You click on the green button down here, and it gives you options about what you want to share. Do you want to share your whole desktop, or do you want to share one of the windows in your desktop? Now, one of the other things I do want to talk about when it comes to sharing your screen are these advanced options. You can see the middle tab there. If you click on that, that's going to give you some advanced options. Now, this one in the top left is a new one, Slides as Virtual Background. This feature is available on both the Mac and PC versions of Zoom. So if you have to give a PowerPoint presentation, for example, selecting this and then selecting your PowerPoint presentation from your computer actually embeds the slideshow into Zoom. It means you don't even have to deal with PowerPoint at all. It's a real handy new feature that they've just brought online. You see it's still in beta, but I think this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be using going forward. And then just beside Slides as virtual background is another thing I want to mention, portion of screen. When you select this, a green box pops up on your screen, and you can just move that around and pick, and you can also resize it to cover whatever portion of the screen you want to share. And this sharing of a portion of your screen can come in handy again with PowerPoint presentations when perhaps you have the notes for your PowerPoint on your presenter view on the bottom of your screen, and you just have your slides on top and you want to be able to share the slides and still see your notes. Sharing a portion of the screen can really help you do that. Bear in mind, if you slide another window on your desktop over that portion of screen, it will be seen. So you have to make sure that you can leave that portion of your screen alone. And the way you stop screen sharing is just by clicking this red little button up at the top here. Okay, non-verbal feedback. To access this feature, you'll have to go through the settings in the Zoom web portal. The Zoom web portal is where you can get a little more granular when it comes to the settings of your meetings. If you want to explore those settings, which includes what I'm about to tell you about, then feel free to book a one-on-one consultation with us at 5x12 Films, or please contact the IT service desk for help. So I've switched on non-verbal feedback in the Zoom web portal, and what that gives you down in the bottom right here when you press the reactions button is just a couple more options that may or may not be useful to you. You still have the emojis if you want to use those and raising your hand, but you now also have these buttons here that say yes, no, go slower, go faster, which can be a really useful non-verbal way to let a speaker know how they are doing and where they are in their presentation. If they want to just ask a simple question and needs a yes or no answer, that can be answered there. People can click on the yes or the no, or if the speaker needs to go a little bit faster or slower, you can let them know that way also. And lastly, our last Zoom tip and trick is the security tab in the bottom left of your meeting. When you click that, it just gives you a very quick way within your meeting to allow or disallow participants to do any of the following: sharing their screen, chat, rename themselves, unmute themselves, start video. And should you need to, very, very quickly, you can also click that bottom button there, suspend participant activities, which will prevent the participants from doing any of the above. If there's been some kind of security breach, perhaps that'll help you out. Okay, that's it for the Zoom tips and tricks. Next, we're going to focus on backgrounds.